Harvard professors don't design exams to check what you memorized. They design them to reveal how you think. Two students can study the same textbook, attend the same lectures, memorize the same formulas. One scores 95, the other fails. Why? Because Harvard exams aren't testing memory. They're testing thinking architecture. The difference is brutal. Most universities reward recall. Harvard rewards reasoning. Most students memorize answers. Harvard professors design questions that punish memorization. And once you understand how they do it, you'll never look at exams the same way again. By the end of this video, you'll see the 4 systems Harvard professors use to expose weak thinking and why average students walk straight into the trap. Chapter 1, the memorization trap. Most students prepare for exams the same way. They reread notes, highlight textbooks, memorize definitions. Sounds productive. Feels productive. Completely useless. Psychologists call this the illusion of competence. You recognize the material, so you think you know it, but recognition isn't understanding, it's familiarity. Researchers in the book Make It Stick demonstrated this clearly. Students who reread material repeatedly feel confident, but when tested on application, they collapse because their knowledge is surface level. Harvard professors know this, so they design exam questions that destroy memorization instantly. Example: in an introductory economics course, students memorize supply and demand curves. Typical university exam question: what happens to price when demand increases? Easy. Harvard version: a professor might present a real-world scenario, a sudden policy change, a supply shock, a black market reaction. Then ask, what unexpected consequence would emerge in this market? There's no memorized answer. You have to reason through the system. Memorizers panic. Thinkers adapt. This is deliberate. Harvard professors often remove direct textbook examples entirely. Instead, they change variables. Different context, different scenario, same underlying concept. If you only memorize the surface, you're finished. But if you understand the principle, you can reconstruct the answer. This technique is called transfer testing. Cognitive scientist Robert Bjork studied this. Knowledge that transfers to new situations indicates deep learning. Knowledge that works only in familiar contexts, that's shallow learning. Harvard exams are built around this idea. They're not asking, did you see this before? They're asking, can you think with it? But here's the problem though. Even if you understand the concepts, most students still fail. Because Harvard professors add another layer, and it's much more brutal. Chapter 2, the ambiguity test. Most school exams are predictable. Clear questions, clear answers, multiple choice. Life doesn't work like that. Neither do Harvard exams. Professors intentionally design ambiguous problems. Questions with incomplete information, multiple interpretations, conflicting evidence. Why? Because ambiguity exposes weak thinkers instantly. Average students freeze. They want certainty. They want the exact formula. But real thinking requires operating under uncertainty. Harvard professor Richard Light once analyzed thousands of student exam responses. He noticed something fascinating. The highest scoring students didn't necessarily know more. They reasoned better when information was incomplete. Instead of asking, what's the answer? They asked, what assumptions must I make? Weak thinkers panic when data is missing. Strong thinkers build models. Let's say an exam question describes a political policy outcome, but leaves out a key variable. Average student response, I don't know. Strong student response, if we assume X, then the likely outcome is Y. That reasoning process earns the points, not perfect knowledge. Harvard exams reward structured thinking, not certainty. This is why many questions feel confusing. They're supposed to. The confusion is the test. But here's the thing though, even students who reason well can still fail Harvard exams, because professors include another trap, one that destroys shallow thinkers instantly. Chapter 3, the illusion. Breaker. Most exam questions test knowledge. Harvard questions test misconceptions. Professors know exactly where students misunderstand concepts, and they design questions around those weak spots. Psychologists call this diagnostic testing. Instead of measuring what students know, the exam exposes what they misunderstand. Example: in physics classes, students memorize Newton's laws, but many hold a hidden misconception. Heavier objects fall faster, even after learning the equations. So professors design a question specifically targeting that misconception. Something like, 2 objects of different mass fall in a vacuum. Which lands first? Students who memorized formulas but kept the misconception fail instantly. Students who actually understand the concept succeed. This technique is used constantly at elite universities. Why? Because misunderstandings are invisible during normal studying. You think you understand, until the exam reveals you don't. Cognitive scientists call this the illusion of explanatory depth. You believe you understand something until you try to explain it. Then your brain collapses. Harvard exams trigger that collapse deliberately. They don't just test knowledge, they stress test your mental model. But here's the real trick. Harvard professors don't stop there, because even deep understanding can fail under pressure. And that's why they add another system. Chapter 4. The Thinking Stress Test. Most exams measure knowledge calmly. Harvard exams measure knowledge under cognitive stress. Short time limits, long reasoning questions, multiple steps. Why? Because thinking under pressure reveals weak mental structures. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman describes two thinking systems. System 1, fast, automatic, intuitive. System 2, slow, analytical, effortful. Harvard exam questions force students into System 2, but they also limit time, meaning you must switch systems efficiently. Weak thinkers get stuck. They overanalyze simple steps, or panic and guess. Strong thinkers structure their reasoning, break problems into components, test assumptions quickly. This is similar to what economists call backward reasoning. Start with the goal. Work backwards through the logic. Elite students often solve problems faster this way, because they're not searching randomly. They're navigating logically. But there's another brutal reality. Even perfect reasoning fails if your knowledge isn't organized. And Harvard professors know this too. Which leads to the final system. Chapter 5. The Concept Network. Average students store knowledge like a list. Separate facts, disconnected ideas. That works for memorization tests. It fails completely for reasoning exams, because reasoning requires connections. Harvard professors design questions that require linking multiple concepts together. Example, a biology exam might combine genetics, evolution, population dynamics. 3 separate lectures. 1 integrated question. Students who studied topics separately struggle. Students who built conceptual networks succeed. This is called schema learning. Cognitive scientist John Sweller studied this extensively. Experts organize knowledge into structured mental frameworks. Beginners store isolated facts. That's why experts solve problems faster. Their brain recognizes patterns instantly. It's not that they know more. Their knowledge is organized better. Harvard exams reward this structure. One question might require 5 concepts simultaneously. If your brain holds them separately, you collapse. If they're integrated, the answer emerges naturally. But here's the final twist. Harvard professors actually warn students about all of this. They explain the expectations. They describe the reasoning approach. And most students still ignore it. Why? Because memorization feels easier. It's predictable, comfortable, but thinking is harder. And Harvard exams are designed to reward exactly that. Now here's the real insight. Once you understand how Harvard exams work, you realize something terrifying. They're not just measuring intelligence. They're measuring thinking habits. And most people were trained in the wrong habits their entire lives. Memorize, repeat, forget. But the real world rewards something else entirely. Reasoning, model building, pattern recognition. The same skills Harvard professors test in exams. Which means the exam system is actually teaching something deeper. How to think. But here's the problem though. Even if you understand all of this, there's still one massive mistake most students make. They study harder, instead of studying differently. That's why I made the next video explaining the Harvard learning system students use to think faster than everyone else. Once you see it, studying the old way will feel completely broken. Watch that next.